A viral Open Chats podcast clip included derogatory claims about the colored community. The hosts apologized, and the SA Human Rights Commission has opened up a formal investigation. MultiChoice has clarified that the episode never aired on its platform, and that show's DSTV contract ended in July 2025. At the same time, old school social media posts from sports and arts and culture minister Gayton McKenzie containing racial slurs have resurfaced based off of his critique of what happened on the Open Chats podcast. This is now drawing complaints and calls for consequences from opposition parties, while he publicly denies being racist. Together, these flashpoints have reignited a debate about speech, accountability, and whether South Africa needs clearer rules for podcasts and new media. Our work is cut out for today. Let's cook. Yo, guys, this one hits close to home. Whenever I see these situations come up, the one thing I think about is how our history is always sitting in the room when we talk. For anyone who might be watching outside of South Africa, you can see this situation as a live example of how the internet stores everything. Screenshots, they do not expire. And the bigger your audience is, the faster your words move and the louder the response is whenever you cross the line. So I felt like because we are in the digital space, we specialize in digital media, and we also have a podcast, I wanted to just share some of the thoughts of how I'm thinking about this situation. And I'd love to hear your response down below. Let's be honest, guys. What was said on the Open Chats podcast, they were racist. They were racist then, and they were racist now. And the one thing that I am glad about this situation is that ugly truths, they surface. The good thing about that is when sunlight shines on these things, it helps us correct them in real life. The worst thing that I think can happen in these situations is that people become too scared to say what they think, and then we never know that that's actually what's going on in their heads. What lands up happening then is whatever it is that they think then goes underground and nothing actually ever changes. Although the situation is so painful, the one thing that's good about it is that when you have this honesty, it helps us to pair it with responsibility. When you start to say what you think, people listen and then they push back. And if you own it, that you got it wrong, then you can actually show your growth in public. And that's what I think the Open Chats podcast has done really well in this situation. I don't know who's been advising them legally, but whoever it is has done a phenomenal job in advising them to do the right thing. I think a lot of people appreciate their apology and the actions that they're taking based off of the mistake that they made. If they never mentioned that on their podcast and they just kept those conversations in their own friendship groups, we would have actually never known anything about it. And they probably would have never learned that stuff that they were saying was actually wrong. So at the end of the day, I think it's a good thing that these come out in public. For me, what's important is authenticity, but it's important to not romanticize it. When it comes to authenticity, sometimes it can be reckless, sometimes it can cause harm, but at the end of the day, the goal is to just be honest and responsible. And I think it's important to realize that if you hold a microphone, even if it's a small one, just because of the nature of the internet, your words can travel. So that means whenever you speak, you need to think about the context, the history, and the people that are listening to it on the other side of the screen. Because the internet is a public archive and anyone can research things that you said online. It's never going to disappear. The receipts will always be there. Although you cannot control how a 5-second clip leaves your channel and might land up on someone else's feed, sometimes it can be stripped of tone, sometimes it can be stripped of context. Deleting it, unfortunately, is not a time machine. You can't go back and change those mistakes that you've made, unfortunately. You can only control what you are doing today and plan how you're going to present yourself in the public light tomorrow. And if you spend time online, it has never been more important than now to treat your timeline like a record. You might need to stand next to that record years from now, not with fear, but with care. And I think that is the takeaway for me. If I had to put this into normal life language, here is what I would actually do as a digital marketing specialist. Sometimes I actually go back and I look at my old posts and I ask myself a simple question. Would I say this today knowing what I know now? It's quite simple. If the answer is no, I fix it and then I say why. If someone messes up online, that's not the problem. The problem is when we don't admit it clearly and we start saying things like, if you were offended, or I have black friends or a black mom, so it's fine. Instead, we should rather be saying, you know what? Here is what I got wrong. And this is what I'm changing. And that's exactly what the Open Chats podcast guys did, which you have to give them props for. Once you've admitted your mistake and you correct it, then you just got to keep it moving, man. If we can do it this way, then it can help us on the internet keep ourselves honest without becoming scared of our own voices. Because that's another problem that I see, especially with our generation. We have these opinions in our head, but we're so scared to share them because we think we're going to get cancelled or someone's going to fight us or disagree with us. The fact of the matter is that that's what you think. And whether it be right or wrong, it doesn't mean that you should just keep it to yourself. You can share it, and from sharing it, you can either learn or you can find other people that agree with those sentiments. And you can find ways to translate that into positive action. And I'm worried that because of this cancel culture that we've created, we create a space where people are too scared to share their opinions. And that just creates a situation where those opinions go underground and no one talks about it. It just gets kept in those little bubbles. And then it just festers there and grows and grows and grows until those bubbles start now becoming visible to the outside world. And then we have situations like this today. The thing about South Africa is that we actually have institutions and laws that respond to speech when it crosses into hate and discrimination. Not only that, sponsors and platforms will also protect their brand when a show puts them at risk. And that, unfortunately, is our reality. It's important to realize that although your freedom of speech is real, there are also consequences that come with your words that cause harm. And that's another thing that I think we don't often acknowledge in South Africa is we often speak about rights. We want the right to this, we want the right to that. But we never, ever, ever talk about the consequences and responsibilities that come with those rights. And I think situations like this really highlight that. The work that we need to do as South Africans is really to hold both truths together at once without shutting the conversation down. Yes, you have rights, but with those rights also come responsibility. And although it's painful, I think there's always a useful opportunity in situations like this. When a clip crosses the line or an old tweet resurfaces, we get to ask better questions. We must ask ourselves, what kind of public square are we trying to create online? And what does accountability look like that is real and not performative? Because you know these politicians. In all honesty, some of them really actually deserve an Oscar, to be honest with you. And to end that point, we must just ask ourselves, how do we make sure that people actually learn and not just go quiet and find new ways to stay the same, but doing it in private? Because that's another problem that I see a lot, especially being someone who's from the white community. A lot of time we only hang out with other white people, so we have these preconceived ideas because in that space it's okay, when in reality it's not okay. The only way that we can realize that is when we go outside of those bubbles. And that takes speaking up and sharing your thoughts. So to create a space where people are scared to do that is not the solution. I think for me, there are three things that I think we should care about in these situations. The first one for me is unity, because at the end of the day, we're still building a country that works for everyone. And we need each other to make that dream possible. So we need to find ways to unite. And I think that's, if you look at the comments, there's a lot of people that feel the same way about that. The second one is accountability, especially for people with power like Gayton, because leadership without accountability is honestly just vibes. And we're at the point where we don't need vibes. We need proper leadership in our country. So accountability and starting with the top is what helps filter down into the rest of society and helps set the tone for how we approach building our country. The last one for me is opportunity. Guys, your voice online can open up so much opportunities. Just look at someone like Liam Jacobs. He posted on TikTok religiously. He shined a light on a lot of the corruption and things going wrong in our country. And now he's been able to get so many positions and opportunities. Not that I agree with everything that he says, but his example is specific to showing exactly what opportunities social media and being active on social media can get for you. Not just him, look at SMWX. There's so many other people out there that are able to do amazing things and get all these opportunities just by having their voices being heard on social media. The last thing that I want to mention is specifically for people who create content online. You do not need to be bland to be responsible. We've all got personalities, guys. And we're all trying to stand out online to get a bag. And I understand it's tempting to go into that drama conversation. It's tempting to say things that are going to offend people that you know is going to get a reaction. But if you look at channels like SMWX, Damcorder, all of these guys are creating content that is bold, that is curious, but still has guardrails in place. and they're still able to unlock opportunities with big corporate clients. They're able to build their channels. They're able to start covering national events on a level that even the likes of SABC and ENCA can't reach that amount of people these days. So it is possible to do that. You don't need to tap into all of this drama stuff to be able to get attention online. There's other ways to do that don't offend or cause damage. And that can look like many things. It can look like having talks before you have the guests on. It can look like having a moderation plan when you are recording so that someone steps in and stops a certain line of questioning. It can even go to creating corrections in the post-production where you take things that were on the record and remove it because you know that it's going to cause harm. And lastly, to the sponsors that back creators, we need to back creators that are not falling into this trap. And as viewers, we also need to support brands that also do not support these creators. Because at the end of the day, it really just causes more damage than actual good. Let's not reward lazy content creation, please. Saying things just to trigger outrage is not something to clap for. And to be honest with you, it's kind of just a shortcut for attention. We need more substance in South Africa, especially in the youth. And if you have a view, saying it plainly, bring context, bring facts, and stay in the room when people have a response. And I have to give a shout out to Open Chats for doing that because they really did listen to what people were saying. If you can listen, if you can weigh it, and if you learn something, you can update your view in public right before people have to actually call you out. And that is not a weakness. That's actually how you build trust with your audience. So going forward, for me, I'm going to care less about having all the perfect takes, and I'm going to be a little bit more visible about our growth and how we're learning on the fly with you as our audience. And I think you should too. And if you're watching this, you're a part of the journey. You're a part of helping us grow and turn this channel into something, that offers benefits to your well-being. At the end of the day, that's what I think. I would love to hear what you think too. If you are with us here in South Africa, I would really like to hear from you. What exactly should our red lines be for public conversations that keep them honest and also human, but without turning it into a minefield where people are getting hurt? And if you're watching this from anywhere else, I'd love to hear more about how your country handles these kind of situations and what actually works for you guys on the ground, because maybe there's something we can learn from that. If you're going to join us in the comment section, please keep it specific, keep it constructive. And I make the commitment to you that I'm going to read through every single comment, and I will bring the most thoughtful ones into the next episode that we do so we can keep building this channel together. Remember, guys, the internet always remembers. So let's use this tool to build better conversations, fairer consequences, and more opportunities here in South Africa and anywhere your words can travel.